Okay, how's our sound? All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So first, welcome to our beautiful Sunport. Behind me is a space called the Aviation Center for Excellence, and this is most likely, hopefully, going to be the future home to thousands of jobs very soon in Albuquerque. So today we have some major announcements to make, and they are, of course, pursuant to what was discussed at the EPC hearing earlier today. And I want to share a couple of things with respect to context. Number one, I obviously am aware of the fact that we're in the midst of a deep pandemic, and there's a lot, of course, that we're probably going to hear from the state tomorrow and then from the city next week in terms of how we continue to deal with that. But we made it a point as administration that we've got to keep working for Albuquerque in every way, not just in terms of dealing with the pandemic. And the pandemic has drastically, of course, hit our economy and our job market. And so what we're announcing today is a, frankly, unbelievable bright spot in the midst of a pandemic. And for some other context, this project is such a big deal, we haven't wanted to talk about it that much because we basically don't want to jinx it. We hope this is going to happen. We believe it's going to happen. It's getting very, very real. But we also know that if this actually plays out the way the company intends it to, this is going to be literally a transformative project for central New Mexico. This project will drastically transform, in fact, this entire quadrant of the city over the course of 10 years. Now, I hope that happens. We believe that's going to happen, but of course nothing is ever certain and there's still a long road to go. But things got very serious with the approval today at the EPC hearing. So to talk a little bit about this and preview what will be literally, not just a figure of speech, a game changer for Albuquerque's aerospace and technology sector. This is a project that will literally make Albuquerque a home base for space. And so for us, this began last year with our administration's focus on looking at aerospace, satellites, and aviation in this piece of land and how we could optimize that. And of course, we branded it ACE, the Aviation Center for Excellence. The challenge was getting a tenant. And so for us, the plans that were announced today with the Orion Group, as has been announced, involves thousands of jobs, very high-paying jobs, and construction of a 4.1 million square feet worth of buildings that, again, would transform this entire neighborhood and probably central New Mexico as a whole. So those of you in real estate understand just how big 4.1 million is, and of course what 1,000 jobs mean. And that is 1,000 reoccurring jobs. That has nothing to do with the construction jobs that 4.1 million will create, which is hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more, into our economy. Now, we know Albuquerque's already home to talented folks in the high-tech sector and the aerospace sector, and of course home to the Sandia Labs, AFRL, wonderful, wonderful partners that are all directly or indirectly related to this kind of initiative. And this positions us as one of the leading cities in this booming sector for our economy, and again, a sector that continues to boom regardless of the pandemic. Now, this partnership has the potential, as I mentioned, to be a massive job creator and really develop a brand new space industry here in New Mexico. So I want to give a big thank you, of course, to the Orion Group for considering Albuquerque and for making the kinds of investments and commitments that they stated today in the EPC hearing. Now, I want to share a little bit about, this is obviously city land, so this is a city-heavy project. It's why we're so heavily involved in this. But I do want to mention also how this came about. You know, when we heard about this project, number one, the numbers were staggering. We almost thought it was too big to be true. But we did decide that even in the middle of the pandemic, a lot of cities and a lot of different economic development officials were not really conducting business when it came to last spring. And we made a decision that our aviation director, Nika Allen, and our COO, Lawrence Rael, were going to go fly out to D.C. and actually see if this was serious. And it was so serious that we later did meet with them in COVID-safe ways over the course of the pandemic. So we have been working on this, and these are the fruits of our labor. There's little doubt in my mind that if we were not proactive and took a long-term view, no matter what's happening in our city, we would not have gotten this deal. And so I want to especially thank Nika Allen, her team, also Cynthia Armio in Economic Development, and of course our COO, Lawrence Rael, who's been the lead on this, and of course our CAO, Sarita Nair, who touches everything that happens in the city. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Lawrence Rael. Lawrence?
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate that. Just from a practical perspective, we've been working with the Orion Group for the better part of a year. Early on, they came to Albuquerque and looked at this area, and of course, one of the mayor's first initiatives, really, both to Director Allen and to myself, was to look at this parcel of land and seeing if there was opportunities for development. It's an 80-acre site, has all the infrastructure in place, and quite frankly, on a major commuter, if you will, facility like Gibson. In our conversations early on with the Orion Group, we talked a lot about the aerospace industry in New Mexico, in Albuquerque in particular, and its proximity, as the mayor said, to our national laboratories, Kirkland Air Force Base, etc. Anyway, as we moved through the process, it was very early on, we determined that we needed to get a little more of a sense of the team, if you will, the Orion Group team. And so, quite frankly, it was back in March that the mayor asked both Director Allen and I to fly to DC to meet with the company and with their executive board and the full board eventually, and talk about the project. And it was there that after we had an opportunity to look at the makeup of their board and the kind of experience that they brought in this world of aerospace and especially satellites, that it really became very apparent that they were very, very serious about Albuquerque and were going to move forward. Shortly thereafter, we signed a letter of intent with them to basically to tie up this property for a period of time as they did their due diligence. And then ultimately, as the mayor said today, the Environmental Planning Commission reviewed their site plan, and where all of this information the mayor just described earlier was basically conveyed to our public body that regulates our zoning and land use, if you will, for the city. So as a result of that, in our trip to Washington, it really turned out that this was a very fortuitous opportunity for us. And again, as the mayor said, go out there and let's keep working. The pandemic has been challenging for all of our communities, not just in New Mexico, but across the world. But we kept our eye on the prize, and I'm happy to say that that today was a very good day for Albuquerque and for New Mexico. And although the representatives from the Orion Group aren't here with us today, they were at the Environmental Planning Commission, and I would just add, as the mayor said, this is a work in progress. There's still a lot more to be done, but it's really puts us in a very, very strong position to continue to make this project come to fruition for the city of Albuquerque and New Mexico.
Okay, I want to introduce our aviation director who played a key role in this in a moment, and want to mention too that the Orion Group, we really try and respect each other's confidentiality, of course, and want to let folks know that there's a lot of details about this project we're going to have to direct to the company, but we want to give them space and respect their own timeline and so forth. And so we've been deluged with questions about this for months, but obviously the EPC was a public venue where this was shared, and so we want to be able to answer as much as we can, but we also want to let folks know that there are certain things that, of course, are certainly under the auspice of the Orion Group. Now, with some of those details, though, that we can share, the woman in charge of our airport, which includes the lands around it, and this very aviation center of excellence, our aviation director, Nika Allen. Nika.
Thank you, Mayor. A little bit about the plot of land that we're on right now. The Aviation Center of Excellence improvements to land was made and completed in early 2018. Aviation Department began recruiting Group Orion, who presented at the EPC today, a subsidiary of Thea Group Incorporated, in December of 2018. So we've been working with them for about 2 years now. In the spring of this year, we entered into a letter of intent with the company and have held weekly planning meetings since then. We are working on the lease agreement right now, and the lease is in the final stages. Group Orion has been a very good partner to the city already. They've been working very closely with all appropriate city entities and the utility organizations to make sure that this project is a success. A pre-application facilitated neighborhood meeting was held on September 2nd via Zoom, and though some neighbors did have questions about the project, no one spoke in opposition to it. With the EPC approval that we had today, which was unanimous, we will now focus with Group Orion on obtaining FAA approvals necessary to be on an airfield. The initial site work, we believe, could begin as early as spring 2021. The Orion campus, which we're standing on today, will consist of 6 buildings for a total of 4.1 million square feet of space on a total acreage of 122-acre site. So it is actually a little bit bigger than the Aviation Center of Excellence. This project has the potential to have a very positive economic impact on Albuquerque, as the mayor mentioned, and really as on New Mexico as a whole. The company estimates upwards of 1,000 jobs. ABQ in Albuquerque is home to very talented individuals in this industry, and we know that they're committed to working with the schools nearby to make sure that they have the job force to do the jobs that need to be done. This company is very much in line with the mayor's goals for economic development, which our Director of Economic Development, Cynthia Jaramillo, will speak more about. We're very excited about this project and hope that it moves forward very smoothly. Thank you.
Okay, now also want to mention before I introduce our Director of Economic Development, I want to thank City Council. These things are always delicate with City Council because of all the non-disclosure agreements and so forth, and especially Council President Pat Davis and the councilor for this area. I want to thank them for their work on this, and also, of course, the state's always helpful in a number of ways. But quarterbacking a lot of that coordination is our Economic Development Director, Cynthia Jaramillo. Cynthia?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director Allen. I'll talk a little bit about, from a high level, how critically important this project is to Albuquerque. Now, the global space economy is projected to be worth $3 trillion by 2045. And we know and believe that no city is more prepared to capitalize on that type of growth than Albuquerque. Monumental industry expansion is due to advances in space tourism and increased military spending, areas in which we know Albuquerque is well positioned to lead the entire country. We're at the top of the list due to 4 key assets that make our city a high-value magnet for the aerospace industry. Number 1, Albuquerque's population, as Director Allen and Mayor Tim Keller stated, is saturated with an engineering-savvy workforce due to the presence of course, our top state research, and development universities, and we have a substantial amount of private sector companies in this city and in this state. New Mexico has the lowest property tax in the nation, no inventory tax, and offers industry-specific incentives for new jobs and investment. For companies operating in the aviation and aerospace industries, there are tax deductions on gross receipts for aircraft maintenance or remodeling aircraft manufacturing and directed energy system satellites. We have as you can see behind me, we have large swaths of vacant land, unrestricted airspace, and low population density that not only meet logistical needs of the industry, but also social distancing necessities for COVID-19. 1,000 jobs we're talking about, with numerous contract opportunities for our local economy. FIA, or Group Orion, and its aerospace partners are building truly the world's first satellite constellation designed specifically to digitize the entire Earth. Recruiting economic-based companies in key industries is a top priority for the Keller administration. And 2 priority areas, as we've talked about already, a focus is on space technology and directed energy, sectors, again, that closely align with those assets in which we are naturally strongest. Thank you. Mayor?
Thanks. Okay, I think what we're going to do is try and take what questions we can as the sun sets, but this hopefully is the beginning of something that this is one of these announcements where people are going to literally remember this for 10, 20, even 30 years down the road. as a transformative moment, a quintessential change in the economic future of the city of Albuquerque. Or, things can happen and things don't pan out. But this one, if it does, is going to be something that no one who lives in Albuquerque will not know about. So with that, we will be open for questions. Sure. Sure. The question is about the kind of guarantees for the project moving forward. And so probably Lawrence or Nika, I might tee up for that. What would you suggest? Yeah, we'll talk about kind of where we're at, and also want to mention that, there has been subcontracted work done already, and the city beyond the lease, you'll notice we didn't mention a bunch of economic development subsidies. What's incredible about this project is right now they just want to be here as fast as they can, and we're trying to accommodate that. That's very different than a lot of these companies that are taking a lot of time to negotiate. So we're in a very different and a very much better position. Nika or Lauren?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, there's many indicators in this world, and as the mayor said, in this world of economic development, the mayor said, look, this is the very beginning. We're at the early stages of the program, but let me give you some indicators that give us a great perspective in terms of why we believe this will continue to move forward in a positive manner. First of all, the company has hired local civil engineering firms that are well-established engineering firms in our community to begin to do the engineering and reviews for the site and for the development. They've also have brought in a national construction company that will be the construction company that will start working on the actual facilities. So the company has already invested a lot of money in looking at the site and hiring the appropriate, if you will, companies that help move the project forward in a positive way. So they are making a financial contribution to this site. The work today at the Environmental Planning Commission requires the company to hire a local site development company to actually put the site together and explain this to the EPC and to the community as a whole. So they're investing real dollars in the site and development of the site. And last but not least, as I said earlier, over 6 or 7 months ago, they signed a letter of intent with the airport to hold the site. That letter of intent not only held the site, but also required them to put in real money, if you will, to hold the site so that we would not market it to other companies. And so so they've already paid for that piece of it as well. So all the indicators are that with today's announcement and today's review by the Environmental Planning Commission, that they are very serious and have spent significant dollars to get us to this point.
Other questions?
Can you talk about, I think you alluded to it a little bit, you still need FAA approval. What are some of the things that have to happen before this is a reality?
Sure. And I'll hand it over to Nika for that, and Lawrence to chime in. But I do want to mention this space was, we're between the airport and obviously the military base and research labs with runway access. And so one good thing is there's not a lot of space like this around the country. There are competitors, so we were not the only one. But that also makes us really unique. And so that's another reason why we're in, a much more solid footing to your question.
Thank you. So the FAA does control how we use the land here, so they do ultimately need to approve the project. We are working on an environmental assessment with the company right now, which will be submitted to the FAA for review. We're hoping to submit that assessment to the FAA no later than the end of December for review in January. After that, there are a few more various planning approvals through the city process, and then ultimately a lease through city council, but that would be it.
Great. Other questions?
You said, are there no economic incentives on the table at this point? Do you plan to give them any?
So for Lita, I'll let Lawrence take that, but we're in a good position.
Wow, that was timely. Well, at this point, the company has not presented the city a request other than to help with a expedient process for approval of permits and reviews, etc., by our respective departments. we've put together a tiger team, if you will, of city departments in our economic development group, municipal development, planning, environmental health, all the departments that would normally have a role in the development process. So we're working with them to try and get all of those approvals through the system. So at this point, the investment in this site is simply to get a lease with the airport to use the site, and then to move forward with the approval process to the city government.
Would the lease be like market value, or is this something you would lease for like $1 a year?
All our leases, per the federal regulations with the FAA, require us to do a market lease, and we can work through those depending on what the project is, et cetera, in terms of whether or not the infrastructure is in place, et cetera, but all of them are for our market lease.
Shocker, I know. No LEDA funding. I mean, it's amazing. All right. Others? Yes.
What type of jobs would the project offer? Are there entry-level manufacturing jobs, or you require higher education?
So that's the question is about what kind of jobs that'll be available. First off, the scale of a $5 million square foot or 5 million square foot building is massive. So the working class jobs that will be created from this are in the thousands, at least, just because of the math. And I know that I've been in actually some communication with the building trades and others. This probably is going to put a drain on the whole region in a good way. So that's one side of the equation. The other side, I really would direct those questions to the company because I don't want to speak for them, but certainly a wide range of jobs. When you think about satellite manufacturing and design, that's going to be a wide range of jobs. Others? Just in time for the sun to go down.